day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say, is even harder to find. Well, then there must be some magic clue inside these gentle walls. 'Cause all I see is a tower of dreams, real love bursting out of every scene. Days go by, it's the bigger love of the family.
We're back, and let me make sure to bring everybody on. Can't forget my brother Kevin Aldridge there. Welcome back, everybody. Time to let the microphone do what it was born to do, and that is get hot. Welcome back. Now, we're still waiting for Raven Mundy. I just got a message from her. Hopefully she'll be joining us here shortly. To the audience, thank you so much for being here. But let me introduce the crew. We got Michelle Dunn is back. How you doing, Michelle?
Hi, everybody.
Good to see you. Brother Dre is back. How you doing, Brother Dre?
What's up, everybody?
Good to see you. And my brother in this endeavor, Kevin Aldridge, the voice of reason. How you doing, sir?
Happy Friday to everybody. Good to be back.
Good to see everybody. And again, as I said, Raven Monday is she's inbound, as I understand it. See Terrace, crew members in the house, along with Dina. How you doing, Dina? She writes, Phil took PTO today. Yeah, he did. He's sick of it. Sierra writes, well, she writes, like the intro, I saw Nate with the Sony camera. Oh, your team Canon. Okay. All right. Nothing wrong with that. Good to see you. A fellow content creator there. She does great work. Brenda writes, good afternoon, Nathan. Good to see everybody. Yeah, all our friends, thank you. Hey, Nat is here. Good to see you. TGIF, Nate and crew. Caprice, how you doing, Caprice? Good to see you. She writes, hello. Good to see everybody. Well, listen, make yourself comfortable. Buckle up. It's about to get hot. Danica writes, happy Friday. Good to see everybody. Thanks for being here. Please like and share us. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube where we live stream. I'll give you an update right now. And when we kicked it off, we were live streaming exclusively to the Nathan Barbarian page on Facebook. That's my creative page. I got a bunch of things that I'm pushing out here. And I just don't want to get the Hot Mic podcast lost. And I want it to grow in its own pot, so to speak. So just to give you a heads up, starting in January 2026, we'll kick off season 2 of the Hot Mic podcast. And on Facebook, we will be exclusively streaming to the Hot Mic page. So you got a couple months, you got some time to sort of migrate and make sure you follow that page because starting in January, it will no longer be live stream on the Nathan the Barbarian page. And I just want to give you a heads up on it. Also, next week is Halloween. And we got some special things on Halloween. Actually, we're doing a show on Halloween. So make sure you check us out. A very trick or truth special. The Hot Mic podcast. Looking forward to that. Having some fun with the crew and you as well. But let's get straight into it, man. We got to talk. We got Brother Dre here. We missed him on Tuesday. And I know everybody want to know what Brother Dre got to say. So he put you on here. Spotlight you, bro. You've been talking about it since the beginning, even on your own podcast, which I hope you plug before we get off today. Let people know where you are and what you're doing. But, looks like it's happening. Police Chief Fiji has been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. What are your thoughts, Brother Dre? Oh, boy. I'm not sure what happened. Something happened with the audio. It sounds terrible. Yeah, he's gonna check back in. So we'll just get to it. Michelle, you weren't with us. What do you think about the fact that Chief Fiji has been placed on administrative leave? Mayor says this is going to make the city safer. Seemed to imply that in a subsequent interview. Brother Dre is back.
Let's have Brother Dre go first.
Okay, how's this sound? Am I back on point?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Back on point.
Okay. Appreciate it. Yeah, everybody who won, I'm a transition too as well in January, strictly the Curse Breakers 300. It'll be just strictly a social podcast page, getting a lot of stuff in place. Right now, it's just Andre Ewing on Facebook, but we're going to continue to grow. I mean, you said it clearly. I've been talking about this like I'm a prophet that at some point, Fiji's going to go ahead and get the axe. I said that you're going to have it where The city manager is going to be next on the chopping block because it's all encompassed in one. I mean, I said it before back in December of 2022. The city manager walked into the police district at District 2 and asked officers specifically, who do you think will be the best chief for this position? And it's crazy because why ask us if you pull and push for the other one anyway? That makes absolutely no sense. Why? Because we saw that at some point, this is exactly what will be exposed under the representation and leadership of this chief. And but guess what? I said it clearly on the last podcast. When you sell your soul to the devil, Lisa Davis did not want to deal with all the politics and policies that they were doing, like getting rid of District 5. She was never for that. So they needed a chief that would go in and buy into all this foolishness. And now, guess what? The chickens have come home to roost. And this is exactly what I expected with this process and leadership.
Hey, Michelle, what's your take on it?
Well, I was thinking about, my first reaction was Mayor Aftab's comment that this has got nothing to do with the election. And that is just insulting, actually, to think that the general public would agree with that statement. Most would understand that none of this would be happening if it weren't for Bowman's challenge of the issues of public safety, I believe. But I was also thinking back at the last time we had a fired police chief, and that was with Jeff Blackwell, if you remember, back in, I guess it was 2015, if you remember, and Harry Black was the city manager at the time. And I just don't remember the FOP rolling around trucks with big TVs on it, with Cranley acting like a puppet master. Jeff Blackwell was fired, and it just strikes me as disingenuous that they're going so heavy. And of course, now they're tying in the whole issue of the charter amendment, which is issue 5. They're not only saying, protect the chief, bring her back, but we should get rid of issue 5. And if others can maybe talk more articulately about it, but myself, I kind of forget about issue 5. I Googled it, and I recall quickly, oh yeah, that was directly following in 2001, the murder of Timothy Thomas. Issue 5 was passed to shift the role of police, the hiring and firing of police chiefs out of the civil service over to essentially an appointed position by the city manager. It was a demand from the community to say we need more accountability. And this way we can hold our elected, so to speak, although city manager is not elected, but the mayor and city manager more accountable for the hiring and firing of our police chief, and not leave it up to internal civil service processes. And also it allowed for a national search of a new police chief. Right now, what the FOP is now rolling a truck around the city saying is we want to get rid of issue 5 and get it back to a civil service. And I just find it all very interesting that I don't remember any of this discussion about issue 5 back when Blackwell was fired. I don't know. What do you think?
You're 100% correct, because number one, Blackwell was set up for failure. He was an outside chief from Columbus, and I thought he did a great job here. He was visible. He was in the community. He was trying to do a lot of things that were positive, and the FOP gave him no type of representation because they shouldn't be getting involved in it anyway, due to the bylaws and the process that the chief has no protection. So now here it is. This is where you see that West Side connection getting real heavy, and why you shouldn't hire somebody that got over 250 years of policing from the West Side, deep into it, and you trying to tell me you just been a perfect Sally this whole entire journey? I said this is where you see how the internal process is. When I say friends of friends of friends, Dan Hills, even with the former president of the Sentinels, Captain Pettis, he went to the mayor's office and city mayor and told him that Fiji wasn't the right choice. And so now all of a sudden you see them backpedaling based on these specific issues, and the FOP supports who they want to support. And I think this is a bad look for the FOP because Blackwell was doing a great job and he got straight up ambushed, taken to City Hall and fired on the spot. He was gone, and he went under a lot of stress from that process. So that should tell you they want to get rid of issue 5 so they can keep things once again in house and have a hot mess of things that have occurred. So I'm all for going outside, looking for the best candidate. But the one thing we have to do, I don't believe keeping it in the mayor and city manager's power of control. It needs to be somewhere where there's a vote amongst the city council.
What do you think about Henny as the interim? Do you think that he would be a suitable next chief of police? What's been your interaction, Brother Dre?
You know what? It's interesting because he has sharked up the ladder a lot. Haven't heard really a lot of negativity about him. And that's what's so interesting is that they can have a pretty solid career until they get to that chief position in a lot of instances. But Henny, I don't really know a lot about Chief Henny at this point as an interim. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how it plays out and how his leadership comes to be as we move forward.
Raven Mundy just joined us. How you doing, Raven?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Talking about the police chief, and so what's your take on it? Some suggesting it seemed like in an interview that the mayor implied, if not just straight out, and said that somehow this is going to make the city safer. And his statement, which I'll share with people, I'm still trying to make sense out of something about the command staff working with the city and the city working with the command staff. And I'm like, huh? But in general, what's your take about this move that's been made about with the police chief? And I want to ask Michelle this and Brother Dre, and we talked about this briefly on the last podcast, or we talked about it not too briefly. Does her gender play a role in this? If she was a male, would she have had a longer runway? Would people look at her leadership differently?
My curiosity lies in the who exactly would feel safer. I think that's kind of part of it. Like, who exactly does the mayor think will feel safer with this move? And once that is pinpointed, I think that it kind of gives us room to flesh out the rest of the statement. Because I'm just gonna say it with police tension within the Black community within Cincinnati. It do Does it really change? Like, if you switch out the sheriff or you switch out the police chief, does it really change? Like, does your level of safety really change depending on who was in that office? I don't really think that I could say that between when it was Chief Isaacs or now with Chief Steve. Like, I don't. It doesn't really change. The tension is still the tension. The broken relationship is still the broken relationship, and so I don't necessarily know when you say something like, "Well, we think that this will make the city feel safer or the city safer." What does that actually mean, and to who? I think that's like something that's kind of like give it like kind of spinning me for a loop right now. Like, who exactly is what was the objective, and who exactly are you wishing to make feel safer with this move? And I do think a lot of the reason why she gets a lot of pushback is because she's a female police chief. Let's just be real about it. That plays a huge part in it. I think that with a lot of cities that have female leadership, that's just something that comes with it. We unfortunately live in a country where having women in positions of power makes the status quo feel very uncomfortable. We just watched it in our last election. We don't do well when we even look at the possibility of a woman holding that much power. And so I do think that unfortunately Chief DG has had that put against her in that position, and I think that unfortunately it's going to be something it's going to be a consideration for that if it were a man just wouldn't be a thing. I think that that's just the nature of being a woman in a position of power. You're always going to have somebody put what they view as your shortcomings, some of that is going to be rooted in the fact that you are female, and it's unfortunate.
Well, I'm gonna just say I respectfully, Sister Mundy, how you doing? I respectfully disagree that it's because she's a female. I mean, we've had a lot of female authority within the police department that have thrived a lot. And let's be clear, she's a female white. She's not a female black. And this was female black. This would be an interesting conversation and an interesting topic. But when you look at the evidence, the climate assessment that hasn't been released yet, that is going to be interesting dealing with Chief Fiji. And when information comes out, they're actually going to see why she was not a choice from the police officers. Now, what's interesting, you heard Corey Bowman several times say the police know what they're talking about. So if they knew what they talking about 3 years ago, why didn't the entire police department vote overwhelmingly for Teresa Fiji? They still voted for Lisa Davis, who was also a female. So I just believe that it was a mismanagement of pointing out the right person for the job. And we see this playing out because I'm going to stay consistent. She went in and she was the only one who was going to do verbatim what they asked. And that disqualified all the other potential chiefs at the time.
Here's why I have a little problem with people who want to say this is this is gender based. One, she's being dismissed by a black female city manager who basically chose her. You hear the FOP union, they're saying she's not the problem. The mayor is the problem. So the FOP isn't really calling for her ouster. I didn't really hear a lot of people in the community. I mean, if you listen to what the community reaction to getting rid of the police chief has been, they feel like she's being scapegoated. So this notion that they're getting rid of her solely because she's a woman doesn't really make sense. You basically got a woman, a black woman at that, who's getting rid of the woman or who's thinking about getting rid of the woman that she hired. So I think when you look at all of the circumstances around it, I think it's a much harder in this case to make the argument that they want to get rid of her because of her gender.
I'm not saying it's solely because of her gender, but I do think that unfortunately, it is like it becomes part of the overall picture. Like, I think that if she were a white male, I don't know if it would have been just such a swift move to do so. That's
I
my
agree
point.
with
I don't
that.
think that it's solely because that she's a female. I think that it does, however, play a part, as it usually does when you see any minority, because being a woman is part of being a minority. But with any minority, we know just by being black in America, when you are in a position of power, there is a different kind of microscope on you in that position, in that role. And a lot of times it is viewed through that lens. When you get disciplined for certain things or when you get called out for certain things, it's because of the very microscope that is being a minority. And I think that plays a portion of it. I don't think it's the whole thing, but it definitely plays a part in it. That's the point that I'm making.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think if it were a white male police chief, it would be being handled differently. But I just think you got to look at the overall conversation of what's being had. Is it seems like people are trying to have it a lot of different ways, right? Like she's being gotten rid of because it's the politics, right? It's an election season. She's being scapegoated, and that's the reason why she's out. And if it wasn't the election or the politics, then she would probably be just fine. So then that kind of doesn't jibe with, the whole, well, it's because she's a woman kind of thing. I tend to lean towards that. I think Michelle hit the nail right on the head in the beginning. I've said this a few times. The only reason why we're in this case, and Nathan, we can even take it back to the election if you want to say that, the climate that's been created in the Trump era, fast forwarding it to the brawl that happened in July, all of this, everything that you're seeing is a purely 100% political reaction that is somewhat driven by racial politics and other things that have us where we are at this point. And I agree with Michelle. I think for the mayor to try to act like that's not the case is totally fraudulent, because I think anybody who's paying attention absolutely knows that all of this, that everything that has happened since July 26th, has been reactionary, politically reactionary, and a lot of that may be because of the Trump politics and the pressure that comes along with that tough on crime, democratic cities being poorly run. Like, I think anybody who wants to deny that isn't a driving force behind everything that we've seen take place in this city since July 26th, I think isn't paying attention, because I think absent the national attention that Cincinnati got from that and the political pressure that came from that, Teresa Thigi would be just fine, regardless of, how the rank and file felt about her, that she wasn't their choice. The mayor and the city manager obviously didn't care about that because they went with her and they were supporting her. Again, as I said, up until 2 months ago. Just 2 months ago, Mayor Abdab Puraval said he had full confidence in the police chief and the job that she was doing.
Right.
Fast
So what
forward,
changed?
Yeah, precisely.
And also, city council's doing a real good job of abdicating any responsibility in any of this. Their response is, I don't know what's going on. This is chaotic. I don't know what's going on. What do you mean you don't know what's going on? We pay you to know what the heck is going on. It's pathetic. And especially when I'm getting all these huge mailers in my mailbox asking me to cast my vote for these people, and their main top line is public safety. And you don't even have a police chief that you have any confidence in, apparently, or you don't know what's going on. I really think people should be, she's being totally scapegoated. They're saying if we just get rid of her, everything will be okay. And that's not how this works. And everybody knows it. If you're going to measure her performance on number of homicides or public safety perception, I mean, what's her performance measure? What is she measured on? I don't know. I'm not in the police department, but in most cases, you're usually measured on metrics that aren't directly related to, shots fired. I don't think she's measured on that, but obviously they have a problem with her performance now. And once again, I would just pivot to let's all start giving these city council people some hell a little bit, because honestly, they should know what's going on. We're paying them to know what's going on. They should have hearings. They should have reports. They should have press conferences, maybe, if they want, tell us about what's going on. But to just say, I don't know what's going on, is really frustrating.
Good point. I agree with you completely on that point. Mayor says that police were going to start enforcing low-level crimes. So what does that mean, and what will be the impact? And Brother Dre, I want to get your thoughts on that. Is this the change that we need in Cincinnati? If we start with the low-level crimes, whether that marijuana smoking or, I don't know, noise ordinance violations or something like littering. If we start with the low-level crimes, is that going to end to a decrease in the high-level crimes? What's your take?
Number one, no, it's not going to deal with the decrease of crimes. I mean, they're trying to deal with the low-level crimes, dealing with theft, break-ins into vehicles, which has obviously been a serious thing with people breaking into cars. I mean, people who smoke weed and marijuana, I mean, if you pretty much ask them to put it out, they'll just put it out and just wait. So at the end of the day, the low-level crimes isn't going to do anything. So now you're going to saturate, once again, the individuals that it can cause something that's not work. People are going to start getting harassed more. You're going to start seeing individuals get arrested for no reason. Officers are going to start pushing the citizens into a position where it's like, hey, get off the street. Oh, they didn't get off the street. I'm about to arrest you. Put your hands behind your back. Here's a tase. And this is where you're going to have the frustration and something from, oh, they just ran because they took a candy bar, got tased, and ended up getting shot. Now, this is where I'm like, you playing a very, very dangerous game now with the low-level crimes, which means you're going to have more interaction with the community where we should be having a process of de-escalating. Now you're going to escalate it where people just can be chilling on the corner, having a conversation, and everybody that's standing on the corner, chilling, not even doing anything, is going to start getting harassed. This is a very, very dangerous game that they're playing. And this is what happens when I say you got leadership that doesn't have a clue, and the mayor is involved in this whole pie that is not just the chief, it's also the city manager, and they don't have no clue about public safety. So do I want to just let the police ran rapid? No, absolutely not, because it's going to start something that's going to end up in a tragedy, and it's going to make the city even worse.
And you know what?
I think most Democrats right now are really disappointed in Mayor Pureval and how he's handling all this and how he has allowed his opponent to frame up this election cycle. And it's now resulting in, increased policing, like you're mentioning. There's a lot of people that are very disappointed in his ability to maneuver through these political landmines. He's showing that he really doesn't have any swagger in politics right now, and it's showing. And I don't know who his advisors are, but maybe he should stop meeting every other week with Jeff Ruby's daughter and actually have some meetings with some real political advisors, people from the community, so he can speak in a way that's truly representative of what people truly feel in the city, and not just replicate talking points from the business community downtown or
My
wherever.
question is, do we even have the police force to do this?
Exactly.
Like every
Thank you,
time, because every time we have one of these incidents, like what happened, in July, or any other incident that happens downtown or anywhere else in the city where something happens and the city doesn't agree with how police handle it, the very first excuse out of their mouth is, well, we don't have the police force to cover this, and we don't have the police force to do this, and we don't have the police force to do that. You don't have the police force to handle big incidents. Where are you going to find a police force to handle these low level crimes that you now want to put emphasis on? Like, I have to agree with you, Ms. Michelle. You're scrambling right now. And y'all are scrambling, y'all are putting anything out there, saying whatever sounds good, whatever these small businesses downtown who let's just call a spade a spade. You want to put a chokehold on the city's police department to do your dirty work, because that's really what it is at this point. Like, what are you talking about? Like, as a voting taxpaying citizen, my only question is, what are you talking about? Every time we have an issue, y'all say y'all ain't got a police force. Now suddenly we have enough police force to cover low level crimes all over the city. What are we talking about right now?
Yeah, you guys hit the nail right on the head, you and Brother Dre. One, I thought we were stretched thin for police officers, and having police officers sweat low-level crimes is only going to make officers who are, as we said, undermanned and overworked, they're going to be more overworked. And that's just going to create more issues, more
And guess who's
tension.
going to be agitated when they're out there dealing with your children who just fresh off the bus after school and they downtown hanging out? Or guess who's going to be more agitated when they go say they on Lynn Street and they're agitated already because they're working another shift that they didn't sign up for, and there's a homeless person down there who's sitting somewhere that they shouldn't be sitting, and all this other foolishness. Like, just imagine you already have what you've already decided police force is a overworked, underpaid police, and then you're putting them back on the streets, even more overworked and underpaid, and you're expecting them to deal with the public in a way that's going to be conducive. Make it make sense.
Yeah, but this is where I think the community has to show up. And look, it's probably a foregone conclusion that AvTab is going to win re-election here in a couple of weeks. And so now what that means is that it's incumbent upon the people of Cincinnati, Democrats, whomever, whatever persuasion you are, if you disagree with these actions that the city is taking, you got to show up. You got to show up down at City Hall. You got to show up and let these elected officials know this is not the way that you want your city policed. And that's the only way, that's the only pushback you're going to get, because it's probably not going to happen at the ballot box in terms of the threat of sort of kind of getting rid of AvTab. I don't think that that's going to happen. So I think the only way that you're going to have to get your attention is folks are going to have to mobilize, and they're going to have to show up, because the decisions that they're making right now are not the most vulnerable folks are the ones who are going to pay the price for these bad decisions that are being made right now. It's not going to be the downtown business community. It's not going to be these folks that the mayor seems to be listening to and taking his direction from of late. It's going to be the average person on the street who's going to pay the price for this one.
Well, I predict that all of this is going to suddenly disappear on November 5th around 9 a.m. We won't see these, hard-hitting, statements out of the mayor's office. Once he wins, I think we'll just go back to, and right now, Thigi is not fired. She's under an administrative leave, which is temporary, right? They're going to do an internal investigation I don't know what that's going to uncover. You know, I mean, they're going to have, she's already secured a lawyer, you know, and this city has paid out a lot of money on people that they've tried to fire or have fired and then did it in a way that wasn't fair, to the point that we've had to pay out thousands upon thousands of tax dollars to fix the poor HR management of this city and how they treat people on
Hundreds
their
of
way
dollars.
out. So I'll just, you know, I think it's all going to disappear and vaporize on November 5th, and we're just going to go back to business as usual.
See, I'm a little more skeptical
I don't
about
think
that
so at all.
because
I think that hold on one second, Kevin.
yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
think and as I've been saying over and over again, this is the new reality, the new environment, because it's bigger than just the election. AFTAB, and I'm sure as people internally are looking at polls, I can't imagine any poll says that that his challenger Bowman is going to win. This is long-term gaming. This is the politics of being a blue state in a red state, especially under this current federal environment. It is what it is. It's not going anywhere. And, you know, it's been quite interesting. Like, you know, all great points from everybody. You know, for years and years and years, they've been telling us that the police force has been stretched too thin. Now, suddenly we got people they can be bus monitors. Right now, police officers are going to be monitoring who's going to be standing around at the bus. Are you riding the bus or you're not riding the bus? Now, police officers are going to be monitoring low-level crimes, right? City council always complain about not having enough money. Suddenly, they come up with $5.4 million. I will say it again. Pressure busts pipes and creates diamonds. Everybody looks great in leadership when there's no crisis, when there's no pressure. Everybody looks good. But the true determination of leadership is what you do under fire. When the storm is upon the ship, when things are looking crazy, when the barbarians are at the gate. And right now, I think you all have said it, we're getting a bird's eye view of not just the AFTAB administration, but also city council and how they deal with tremendous pressure. And again, it is tremendous pressure.
Well, I mean, I'm going to just say this about city council here. I disagree with Michelle that it's going to go away after November 5th for some of the same reasons that you just said. I think this is bigger than the election. I think, in my opinion, AFTAB has never been under threat. Never at any point since this election was announced of not being reelected in November. Now, some of you might say, Kevin, no. He knows this, and probably pretty much Corey Bowman is not winning in a blue city of Cincinnati. I mean, the lenders, you know, the biggest financial philanthropists, richest people in the city, they back AFTAB, not Corey Bowman, even though the lenders are friends with Trump. So what does that tell you? That tells you all that you need to know about the likelihood that Corey Bowman is going to put up any kind of real threat to AFTAB. So it was never about the votes. It was never about the threat of the votes, but it is about the threat of big business. It is about Fifth Third putting pressure on the city about getting crime situated, particularly around Fountain Square, where if you remember, you know, 6-7 years ago, they had a mass shooting on Fountain Square out there. And then you have another couple of shootings. So those are the folks in Cincinnati approximate that the mayor is most concerned about, those business interests. More broadly, I agree with Nathan. I think you got to pay attention to the Trump administration and the danger that they present, not necessarily Corey Bowman. He's a pawn and a tool of those same sort of MAGA interests who just want to get that, you know, who just want to get those talking points going on here in Cincinnati. They know he doesn't have a chance of winning. If the Republicans really thought Corey Bowman had a chance of winning the Cincinnati mayor's race, you don't think they would be pouring more money into a campaign here to really attack AFTAB if they thought they had a chance to wrest control in a former democratically run city? Come on, we gotta use a little bit of reason here and thought process and not just fall prey to the hyperbole. I mean, so AFTAB is playing to the business interests in the city right now, and probably the more broader threat of the Trump administration. And neither of those two things are going away after November 5th.
And let me make a comment when we talked about stretching the police thin. And this is what interests me, is because the state police was offered okay, and you took 2 days and then you took 4 days that they're here, that's still not going to do anything. So if we don't have enough police officers on the street, and you've heard this 1,001 times that we need more police, then do a test baby right now. Let's bring in more of the state police, put them into certain pockets of resources, and see if crime gets reduced by adding more police. So you don't even have to go out here and spend millions of dollars on getting new officers, which is going to take at least 5 to 10 years to get the complement up anyway, and to get the right officers. And see, this is the dangerous game that people are playing. If you're going to do a rush packet and just try to get people to just come on in, several officers are going to slip through the cracks. And we're going to have some officers that are going to come in with bad records, and you hear it all the time. How did that officer get the job? Because they just rushed them on through because they just wanted more police. So there still has to be tactics in this process. But if you already have the state package that DeWine is willing to release to say, here it is, let's use those resources and see if it reduces the crime without quit complaining about more police when you have the resources to do so.
Does anybody think that Fiji can come back, or is she out the door? Because she's just on administrative leave. I mean, is it possible that, or plausible, that they do this review and they decide, you know what, nothing was there. You go back and do your job, sis. Is that possible at all?
It's possible. It is possible, but I think it's possible based on who exactly is mayor, because it's interesting because if Mayor Aftab he wins and all of a sudden they do a review on Fiji and she has a legitimate lawsuit and he decides to bring her in. So let's look how tripped out this can be. If the interim chief or a new chief comes in and they're temporary and crime goes down, and then you bring Fiji back based on a lawsuit, just imagine how ridiculous Aftab would look in the process. I think they're going to find a way to get rid of Fiji for good, because if they bring her back, it just makes the city look even worse.
I think that I think that it because of the mishandling of how they're doing everything, I don't think that there is a plausible way for her to come back. I think that no matter what happens, because you have made the decision to remove her, or to even make a move as if you're wanting to remove her, I think trying to walk that back it's gonna be too hard. It's gonna be too difficult. You're gonna have to figure out a way to make that make sense to both sides, but also you're gonna have to figure out a way to usher her back into that role without her having some level of like immunity, so to speak. Like, I think it'll be hard to put her back in that place and then like actually truly hold her accountable in a way that doesn't either feel targeted or doesn't feel like handling her with kid gloves. Like, it's kind of like a touchy place. I don't think there's a way to put her back in that spot with confidence, is what I'm saying. Like, how do you put her back in that spot with confidence? I don't see that being done.
She's
And for
been
that
damaged.
reason alone, I don't think that they'll be able to. Unfortunately, they won't be able to. And if she goes as far as is figuring out how to bring a lawsuit against the city, and then we as taxpayers have to pay out that lawsuit with our tax money, all hell gonna break loose. All hell is going to break loose, and they're going to be too busy. They're going to be too far into trying to figure out how to fix that to even give a damn about figuring out how to put her back in that spot. It's gonna be too much. It was a terrible move in the first place. Just period, point blank. It was a terrible move. It is because we are seeing it for exactly what it is. It's not. I feel like they thought that it was gonna make most voters feel good or feel safe, and they just miscalculated. They grossly miscalculated that move, and now they're going to have to deal with the consequence. And unfortunately, Chief DG is just going to have to lose her job, and it sucks, but it is what it is. There's no way to fix that for the public, for the voters who are going to be responsible for picking new leadership very soon. So unfortunately, I don't see her being back. Unfortunately,
Do you feel
Yeah,
like her authority has been undermined?
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
I don't see why she would want to come back. I mean, I think once you get to this point in a relationship between an employer and an employee relation, I mean, just think about this. She is on paid administrative leave because they say we need to investigate your ability to lead. That means you don't believe in me as a leader. That means you question my ability to lead. And so to that point, you have now undermined my authority. And then how can I even trust you moving forward? You've already shown me that on a moment's dime, you'll turn and you will throw me under the bus. So how am I now going to work in those conditions? How can I even work with a city manager who has done this to me at this point? Someone who is supposed to be the person that I can kind of count on in this relationship to kind of back me up. And so if I'm Fiji, I'm like, I don't want to come back. I want to get me this settlement. I want to get paid, and I want to ride off into the sunset after my 30 years here. I understand what she said. Oh, I just want to come back and serve the citizens of Cincinnati. You know, that's kind of the thing you gotta say, you know, in that type of situation. But she knows, and anybody else knows, who would want to come back and work under those conditions. And to Ravens' point, the city's already made a statement that's hard to walk back from now. What? Oh, my bad. We got it wrong. I mean, she really is a good leader after all, Cincinnati. We was just playing, y'all. Don't play
The
that.
fact that you even called her leadership into question alone undermines anything you ever felt about her leadership. That's it. There's no walking that back. You have quite literally made a public statement about the fact that you're not confident enough in her leadership to not even investigate her. You're investigating her. Of course you don't. Of course you don't really truly trust in her leadership. So no matter what the outcome of the investigation is, we as the public, we know what you think. We know how you feel, and now we have to make our decisions based off of that.
And especially if she's a Scorpio, you could just forget about it. Because I'm telling you, the Scorpio season about to jump off, and like, no, you can keep that job and shove it. You know what I'm saying? And write me a check on my way out. By the way, I mean, you know, that's how I would be.
Yeah,
Right.
somebody brought
You
that
know
up.
what's
I want to
interesting?
support again. Go ahead, brother Dre. Go right ahead.
I was gonna say what's interesting. I want y'all to look at the incidents that have occurred under Fiji's watch as well. The brawl happened, and her articulation of that was terrible with Sarah Herringer. And I want people to realize when Sarah Herringer got involved and started testing the numbers, she exposed a lot of things within the city of Cincinnati as a female wife. And that really drew a lot of attention because she got an outside analyst to come in and bust this door wide open. So you got the Patrick Herringer situation under Chief Fiji. You got the brawl under Chief Fiji. And think about this that people forgot. You got the Hinton case that where the sheriff was killed. That he leaves her office and goes kills the sheriff. I mean, the way she has mishandled that whole administration with some sensitive issues, and then you get her on the square and she's telling criminals, "Hey, just behave." And I think that pushed the envelope where now you all of a sudden saw Jeff Ruby get involved. They said he lost like 50 cancellations, and all of a sudden the mayor pushed quick on this particular process because you now got some heavy hitters breathing down your neck because we haven't heard from those Jeff Rubies and certain high ups. Now all of a sudden you messing with my money, I'm gonna mess with you. You better make a decision right now, at least to get her up out of here. And I think that's why the mayor was forced to do this knee jerk reaction, but it wasn't just from him pulling a string.
So this thing about the money, all good points. I mean, I could push back a little bit, but I won't for the sake of time. But just think about the money that the city is about to spend. So number one, a potential payout for Police Chief Fiji, which will probably be into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But then secondly, I just read, and maybe somebody correct me if I'm wrong or back me up if I'm right, that the city is now going to reach out to some kind of private prosecutor or special investigator that's going to lead it. That sounds like big dollars, big dollars, big dollars. So once again, money, taxpayer money, right? Because of city leadership decisions. And, Raven made the point. I made this point last week. Like, who did you do this for? Because it's not going to automatically reduce crime. Your critics don't care. They don't care who you get rid of. They don't like you, Avtat. Until you're gone, it don't matter who you can get rid of. You can get rid of the entire police force, and they're still going to criticize you. And then your supporters, to Michelle's point, looking at you like, this ain't the Democrat we voted for, so who would you do this for? How's this a win for you? But again, I'm not in the mayor's office. I don't get paid to think like that. I mean, he's surrounded by and is himself. a very smart, intelligent person. I'm sure they got a plan, and I hope it all works out for the benefit of Cincinnatians. Let's stay in Cincinnati and talk about Judge Ted Berry, who looks like there's a serious push to get him out of office. Black judge with a name in the city of Cincinnati. He took some heat because right after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, he made some statements. I'll put them on the screen there that a lot of people had problems with. And now you got Republicans on the state side who are leading the charge to get him basically, I guess, off out the courts. They're trying to get him out of his job. And I want to get your thoughts about this. I mean, was he out of line to make statements as a judge about the assassination of Charlie Kirk? And should it lead to him leaving his job? Does it open the door about his discernment and his fairness and his decision making? These are all the arguments that state legislators, at least two of them, are making about Judge Berry. But what does the crew think? What do you think?
This stuff just irritates my soul. And the first thing that comes to mind when I see stuff like this is a lot of generations of people, a lot, and I mean a lot of generations of people are so blessed to have not grown up in an era with social media. Because imagine if this had been 50, 60, 70 years ago, and it was right after the assassination of Martin Luther King, or if it was right after the assassination of Malcolm X, or any of our black civil rights activists. Imagine if the those in charge, the judges and the sheriffs and the CEOs of that time had access to social media, the kind of stuff that they would be saying on their personal accounts, or the kind of stuff they were saying at the dinner table, the kind of stuff they were saying at the barbershop, the kind of stuff they were saying in the church parking lot after Sunday service. Just imagine the kind of stuff that they were saying at that time and saw no consequence, saw no repercussions about it, and went home and slept good that night and got up and went to work the next day. Imagine if social media would have been a thing then. And now imagine in 2025 when a man, a grown man with a regular job, like being a judge, he is on social media saying something that a lot of other people are saying, a lot of people feel and resonate with. He is not calling for anybody else to be killed or murdered. He is not, saying stuff like I want to tap dance on his grave. All he is saying is this is what happened, this is the consequence, and this is how a lot of other people feel. This is what this man stood for. Like it bothers me when there's such a big deal being made out of people saying things about or against Charlie Kirk. The man was divisive. The man spoke very hate-filled language. This is not an opinion. This is fact. And I hate that we've gotten to the point that where people cannot state facts as facts and be okay with and now people gotta lose their job because of that. And this is also coming from the same people who hated cancel culture, could not stand cancel culture when it first came out. We're so adamant about how wrong and how sensitive cancel culture was and how it has the ability to ruin lives and we shouldn't be doing this to each other and the First Amendment this and the First Amendment that. Okay, cool. But you want to turn around and now because people aren't praising, worshiping Charlie Kirk, you want to use that same rhetoric that you once said was terrible. You want to use that against people to get them out of their jobs and to ruin their livelihoods. And it ain't even stuff that again is offensive. It's just the truth. The man was hate-filled, and divisive. A lot of his rhetoric was hate-filled and divisive. I hate that Judge Berry and who was it? She was on city council and she also got caught up in some comments.
Victoria Parks.
Absolutely. I hate that they even have to be looked at a certain way. These are people who have the power to run our court systems, and you're saying that somebody who has publicly in a statement come out against hatred and racism and devices, that's the person that you're saying should lose their job. It makes no sense to me. You want somebody who is in charge of the courts, somebody who has the power to make decisions in our court system, who has publicly come out against somebody who has been hate-filled and divisive with their rhetoric. That's the person that you want to punish. That's the person you want to lose their job. It makes no sense. And what it really says is you don't necessarily care about what he's saying. You care more about the person that he's saying it against because you align with that person's ideologies and beliefs. Don't feed me no BS about, well, he was murdered and you should never say any. Like, it's not about that. It's not about how that man died. No matter how much you want to convince me it's about that, it's not. It's because you agree with his rhetoric. It's because you agree with what he said. You loved how hate-filled and divisive he was, and anybody who has said anything negative about that man, you want them to be punished. That's what this is about. It has nothing to do with you having such an empathetic heart that you just think, oh, that was so wrong and he should have never died that way. You know it ain't about that. You know it's not. You know it's not. Because
So
he didn't mention nothing about that. What he talked about was how hateful and divisive that man was, and that rubbed you the wrong way. And that's why you want that man to lose his job.
so here's what I would say. I would agree with probably about 90% of what Raven said, but here's where I'll slightly deviate. So one, let me just say this. No, I don't think he should resign or that he should lose his job. These are elected positions, right? So I think if his judgeship is something that people find so objectionable over what he said, let the voters decide whether or not he deserves to return to that position or not. But if I'm Judge Barry, I'm not stepping down. And part of the reason is in politics these days, people say all sorts of things, and we see elected officials across the board who say things that they probably shouldn't say, that are insensitive, untimely, or inappropriate, however you want to look at it, and they don't step down. Some of these same politicians who are screaming outrage over what what Judge Barry said, don't say anything about what the commander in chief, so
Thank you.
has to say, and the objectionable thing. So the hypocrisy there sort of is sickening. But here's what I will say, and this is what I will say. When you are a judge, like Judge Barry is not just like anybody else. And I say this about some of our elected leaders, about how they should be more careful and more discerning about the rhetoric and words that they use, because it does matter, particularly when you are somebody like a judge who does have to adjudicate cases, and you do have to present an air of impartiality when you are handling those cases. And like it or not, people are going to look at those comments and they're going to assume that he's biased one way or another, whether you feel like what he said about Charlie Kirk is true or not. It's the same reason why. Now, I have a little bit more latitude because I work in the area of opinion-based journalism, so I can kind of get on and say what I need to say. But reporters who cover issues don't have the same latitude that I have. And so they can't go on social media and even attempt to say anything like what Judge Barry said there, because it would totally wipe out their ability to cover issues objectively. Nobody would trust a reporter who would make a statement like that to be fair and impartial in coverage. We already have an issue with that in the media as it is. So I think Judge Barry is not like everybody else, where you can kind of just be out there saying whatever. There are certain jobs and there are certain positions where objectivity and impartiality matter, and you have to maintain the appearance of that. There are people who are going to look at that and say he failed in that regard. And they might not be entirely wrong about that, right? They might not be entirely wrong. He clearly took a position, whether you agree with it or not. There are going to be people who don't agree with that and are going to say he's biased because of that. And that's why. That's the only thing that I would disagree with about what Raven said is Judge Barry ain't like anybody else, right? Certain people who hold certain positions aren't like everybody else. Yeah, you have the freedom to do it. Absolutely, you have the freedom to do it. But there are ethical and professional responsibilities that I do think are in place in certain places that do need to be recognized. So if I was going to criticize Judge Barry on anything, I would say it's that. But no, I don't think he should step down or resign. I think you let the voters decide that.
Where's the outrage of these state reps, I guess, who are drawing attention to this comment to, like Kevin mentioned, the president of the United States issuing official videos of himself defecating on American citizens expressing their First Amendment rights at a No Kings protest, I don't see the outrage in talking about civility or ethics or honoring the office in which they're representing. So I can't even respect it. I can't even respect the opinion, because if you're going to pick and choose who you're going to be offended by, you've lost me, honestly. And, you know, I love also the contrast about the offensiveness of ICE agents apparently were denied service at businesses in Chicago, you know, like sandwich shops and bodegos, you know, like, no, we don't have to serve you in here. We're not serving you in here. We don't respect what you're doing. Get out, ICE. You know, no, you're not going to buy a hot dog in here. But yet all the years of hearing about how these bakeries have the right to not bake cakes for gay marriages, you know, they don't have to, you know, they're a private enterprise. They don't have to bake a cake for a gay couple if they don't want to. Right now, all of a sudden, these are ICE agents. What, they can't buy a hot dog? No, you can't, you know. So the hypocrisy that Kevin raised is very much on full display. And again, it just kind of discredits the whole case they're trying to make.
Can we also just sit in there for a moment? The president of these United States, whoever is in charge of his social media account or whoever, but it's his account. The president of these United States posted an AI video of him defecating on American people who do not agree with what he's doing right now in the country. Like, let's just sit in that for a moment. If that is not the most insane thing, I never in a million years, even in 2025, even with Donald Trump as my president, like the height in which the ridiculousness gets day by day is just like, we know from the last time he was in office that man can get ridiculous, but we're actually looking at insanity right now. The president of these United States posted an AI video of himself defecating on American people, and like we're brushing that off as if like, oh my god, he's just so ridiculous. Oh my gosh, that's that good old Trump. That's that entertainment we were missing. Like, that's not. It's not funny. It's like we want to laugh, but it's not funny. It's not. It's like it's so not funny that it's funny. Like, it's actually gross. It's actually disgusting. It's actually so damn disrespectful to the American people, and we just brushing it off. We're just like moving past it. We're just like, we're not making a fuss about it. And it bothers me so much that we've gotten to this point with that office that like it's expected and nobody's reacting. Like, that is, how are we okay? Like, how, like it truly does disturb my soul. How are we okay with this? How are we letting this go on? And it's almost like we're like, I don't even really know how to put it into words, but we've gotten to a point where we are watching that office just day by day, moment by moment, be so degraded that we've become numb to it, and we've
And literally
allowed
demolished. Like, the very edifice of the White House is being demolished without permission. Just to add on, Raven, to the insanity of it all.
Yeah, he got permission on November 2024.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Thank you,
He
Nathan.
got permission. Like, I mean, I hear. Go ahead, Raven. Finish your
I
flow.
was just gonna say, like, that to me, the fact that she just put that out there and we just kind of moved past it and went to like the next point of the conversation. Like, for me, when I remember I saw the video, I was like, this can't be real. This is something that a blog made. Like, this cannot be real. And it's posted on his actual official page as POTUS. Like,
His
we're not
supporters love
even.
it.
This is like, we're in the real world, and this is what we're having to deal with as American people, and we are just like, we move on. Because what do you do? What do you say? How do you respond to a leader who is literally saying, I will poop on you for not agreeing with me? Like, how do you go on?
It's funny. His supporters love it. They're eating it up.
Yeah, you weren't with us on Tuesday. You weren't with us on Tuesday, Raven, but we kind of talked about this a little bit. And I've said, this is Donald Trump has made the presidency and politics, he's turned it into reality television. And to Nathan's point, when people voted for him in 2016 and when they voted for him again in 2024, they let you know that they don't care about this kind of thing. How many times did voters say, oh, that's just Trump being Trump, or I don't care about that. You're making too big of an issue about that. I care about his policies. I know he's crude, rude, and all of these other things. I don't care about that. I care about his policies and what
well,
he
why
can
doesn't
do.
Ted Berry get the same, grace?
Because
Then?
Ted Berry ain't Donald Trump. Ted Berry ain't doing what MAGA wants him.
That's right.
to do.
That's the very point.
Yeah, that's it. If Ted Berry was doing what MAGA wanted him to do, he could be just as rude and crude as.
He'd probably be getting a resolution from the State House. He'd probably be getting an award instead of being threatened with his job.
Hey, Brother Dre, what do you think? Did Ted Berry go too far? Should he lose his job? Should he resign? What do you think?
No, he shouldn't resign. I don't believe he went too far, and I agree with all the powerful points that's being stated. It's just deep that, and Kevin can respect this, that the Bible talks about that people's hearts are going to wax cold. And it's just interesting that when we start looking at things right now and what this president is doing, and somebody who's boldly have felonies, somebody who's boldly have done some things that we thought we would never see as a president, people better buckle up, because I know we said on this show that it's gonna get worse. I don't know if you remember that, kid. We said get ready, it's gonna get worse.
I've
And
been saying
it's going. People better snap out of it. Black people of culture and black and brown people better wake up, because we've gotten so comfortable that it can't happen to us. And I said before, he's testing the temperature to see how far he can push something, to see how far he can go and get the American people to agree with it. So when you see this type of reaction and people are serving him, just like if he is an antichrist, and the levels that he's pushing, people better mobilize and come together, because only the American people can really stop what is happening. And it's interesting, like you said, Raven, people are just kind of sitting back taking it. It's almost like somebody jumps in my house right now, grabs my family, and I just go, oh, how y'all doing? And is violating my family right in front of me, and I don't say anything. That's how deep this has gotten with this presidency, and we see it gets worse. He's pushing the envelope every time we see something. We know the Epstein files came out, been able to try to cover all that stuff up. It's almost as if they can catch him in the bank with the gun, with the video cameras, and it doesn't even matter. We're going to let this guy get in. Why? Because he has an agenda that the Republicans wanted to see happen, that the American people wanted to see happen, and they're going to let this person do it, and they're going to sit back and watch.
I don't know Judge Ted Berry. I'm sure I probably know some people that know him, so it might get back to him or not. But, this whole thing is another example as to why, in most cases, before you hit that send button, you should let somebody in your circle kind of look at it. Because Judge Ted Berry was dead wrong 1,000% to post anything about Charlie Kirk on multiple levels. Number one, just professional. It's unprofessional. Your job is, you're not a social media content creator. You're a freaking judge. You're supposed to be down there representing victims. Like him or not, say what you want to say. Charlie Kirk was the victim. What about respect for victims? It looks bad. It is bad. It was unprofessional. And, again, I don't know what his marital situation is or his relationship situation, but, Judge Ted Berry, before you ever tweet or post anything publicly or even a DM, if you have any question about it, you should run it past somebody, because that was just it was a self-inflicted wound. And we shouldn't be talking about this. Who cares what you think about Charlie Kirk? Your job is to get into that courtroom and adjudicate the law. That's it. It makes the whole profession look bad. It makes him look bad. And you got to understand the circumstance you live in. This is a blue city in a red state.
But I also just want to again mention that we live in a time where our, people in these type of positions, they are living in an internet social media age. Like, we're not living 30, 40, 50 years ago when these people didn't have, we didn't have access to these people the way we have access to them now.
That doesn't matter though, Raven.
That
doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is you are an elected official. So you're representing all the people that elected you. You're an officer of the court. You're an officer of the court. You represent the court. Keep it to yourself. No one cares.
And it's
There's
not
there's
even,
no win for you if you're a Judge Barry. There's no win for you out of this. All you're going to do is make your profession and yourself and that courtroom and all the people that elected you look bad. For what? So people can like it and laugh at it on social media. And again, what about the victims? You're supposed to be representing the victims. Charlie Kirk was a victim. Whether he was reprehensible to you or not, he was still the victim. And it's just a bad thing. Now, do I think that he should lose his job? No. I think, as to Kevin's point, that you're an elected official. If the people who elected you don't like it, if they find it to be the opposite of who they want to represent them, they should vote you out. I don't think these people at the state level should be involved at all. But again, it speaks to where we are now.
But
I think
But if the people that you're representing feel similarly to what you posted, how are you in the wrong? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you?
But
The people who put you in office
it's
feel the very same
professionalism,
way
though,
that
Ray.
you put out here.
It's professionalism, like what Nathan said. The same thing that irritates all of us about what Donald Trump does. Not only is it crude, mean-spirited, and childish, but it's also beneath the dignity of the office of the presidency. And Nathan made exactly the point that I tried to make when I said Judge Barry ain't like everybody else. Here's where you lose your way as someone who is in a leadership position, is when you start acting like other people out there who will say and do anything, right? Like, that's not why you are in the position that you are. Yes, you represent the people, but that don't mean you got to act like the people.
But
right?
hasn't Trump changed that, though? Look, I mean,
but that's what you're about to say, Michelle. Let me finish
You're
my
saying
point.
there's a
I'll let
rule
you have the floor,
they've
Michelle.
thrown
But you're
out the
about to
rule
say
book.
exactly. You're about to say exactly the point that I
No,
tried
I'm
to make.
not. I'm saying, why play by a rule book that's been thrown out?
No, but the reason why, and I've made this point before, is if we lose our way, if we lose our standards in the effort of trying to battle against something we hate, if we become that thing, then what the hell are we fighting for?
It's unfettered
Because now
opinion.
I've become the same type of monster that I'm fighting against. And maybe it's my spiritual belief that good, that love conquers everything, that I don't have to be evil to defeat or overcome evil. I don't have to act like the devil.
Some people are saying that
to beat the devil.
Progressives and Democrats are losing because, the argument is people, while it might be playing to people's base, desires or whatever, to put on the gloves or take the gloves off, so to speak, and fight street fights instead of by the rules in the ring, we're losing because we're too damn polite. And we're like, well, I'm going to abide by this old school, Cincinnati nice, you could call it. We've talked about that, I think, in some circles. I think there's an argument to be made.
Because they don't know how to fight, Michelle. They don't know how to fight, Michelle. You don't have to fight like them to fight, right? My dad was a guy who could cuss you out without ever using a single curse word and let you know that you had been told off because he knew how to talk. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Democrats don't know how to talk. That's why they're losing. Not because they need to talk like Donald Trump. They just don't know how to talk right in a way that people need to hear it, to put it where the goats can get it, so to speak. That's what Donald Trump does. Democrats are too busy trying to give you a dissertation, right? No. People don't want a dissertation. Donald Trump talks plainly to people. No. Now, he does it in a crude and rude fashion.
Well, Ted Barry talked plainly about what he felt, and that's.
But here's where I think we've gotten off course a little bit because we're taking things out of context. So Ted, if Ted Barry is a judge, he's not running for president. So if you're someone like Gavin Newsom and you're running against the next Republican candidate and you want to play fire with fire, I get it. Yeah. But we're talking about a judge. So on that level, in that context, he was absolutely dead wrong. And I don't care what Donald Trump is doing. And I might have the same critique of anybody in office who I think is saying something or doing something that is beneath the office, that is betraying the trust that the elected folks that the voters have put in them. And I think that's what Ted Barry did. And I think comparing that to going after Donald Trump is out of context.
Let me ask you
right now, Gavin Newsom is fighting fire with fire. and some would say doing very successfully. And a lot of people think he's running for president in 2028. I got no problem with it. I happen to believe that sometimes you got to beat a monster. You got to be a monster to be a monster.
Let me ask you this:
turn the other cheek, and when they go high, I go low. I ain't doing none of that. When you go low, I'm going low, because that's sometimes what you got to do.
Let me ask you this, Nathan. Do you think Barack Obama could beat Donald Trump today?
Yes.
Okay. Point. You just made my point. Because Barack Obama is not going to fight Donald Trump on Donald Trump's terms. So if you believe that Barack Obama could beat Donald Trump today,
how do you know that, though, Kevin? He hasn't ran. He's been in office for, I don't know, 12 years.
Well, I asked you the question. What makes you think Barack Obama could beat Donald Trump? I asked you if you thought Barack Obama could beat Donald Trump today, and you said yes. And then you're asking me, well, how do I know? How do you know?
Well, I was just looking at it in terms of the numbers. I think that the coalition that Barack Obama built would bring out more numbers than Kamala Harris did. She nearly beat him. That's what I think. I'm just a numbers game. I think if Barack Obama was running today, he would run a campaign similar to what we see with Gavin Newsom. You got to fight fire to beat fire sometimes. I think that was 12 years ago. And I think he would update his tactics to where we are today. Yeah. And I'm just saying, I don't have anything to go by because he's not running.
Just knowing what I know about Barack Obama and how he conducted himself and still continues to conduct himself to this day, I don't see him. I certainly see him taking on Donald Trump, and I think he would dismantle him in ways that would not require him to sink to his level to do that.
But when you say sink to his level, like, what do you mean by sink to his level?
Well, again, my thing is like, just the rhetoric, the nastiness, the hey, I gotta say this, I gotta come with the same kind of inappropriateness that Donald Trump does to beat him. Like, that's what I feel like when Democrats say we gotta fight.
Do you think Gavin Newsom is being inappropriate right now? The way he sort of
no, I don't. I actually think, right. But he hasn't stooped to Donald Trump's level. And I think
he's using some of the same tactics, though. So yeah, he hasn't like got into the mud, but he's doing like a mirror campaign. And I do believe that if Barack Obama ran today, he would run a mirror campaign in terms of his social media, some of the things and some of the devices that he used to try to get attention, to make certain statements. I think that's the world.
Yeah, those are tactics.
I think Barack Obama would do that.
Those are tactics and strategy. I'm talking about the words that are actually coming out of their mouth, because that's what we're talking about here are the words that Judge Barry typed, right? We're talking about the words and the rhetoric that people are speaking. That's what we're talking about here.
Like,
that's my point.
Yeah. I mean, we'll never know. I don't know. Leave it to the audience.
I just say that to say that if you think Barack Obama could win today, then that lets me know that you don't have to beat Trump to beat Trump.
Yeah.
And it's all in the approach and the way.
I don't know if that's a fair comparison, though. I don't know if that's a fair comparison, just because we've had Obama as a president before. We've seen him in the role, so we have something to compare it to. We've also, just off the strength of the what's it called? It's the rating that our presidents get, like their likability and all of that stuff. Like, Obama has by far had one of the highest, ratings with the American people than I'm pretty sure any other president. I think based off of that, like, we loved Obama so much that we wanted Michelle to run just so that we could have the Obamas in the White House again. Like, he has a whole different level of likability. He has a whole different level of support behind him that just outside of politics alone would give him some just some leeway, something to work with. And then he could build off of that, his campaign and all the other stuff that come with him. So I think it's not necessarily a fair comparison. I think that if we were looking at maybe a completely different, if we were looking at any other Democratic candidate that you would consider somebody who doesn't fight dirty, then maybe we could talk about that in a more realistic way. But because Obama is just somebody in the comments said he's a once in a lifetime type of politician. That is correct. He is just a once in a lifetime kind of politician. We have too much history on him, and we have too much trust in him because we've seen him do it for 2 terms. We've seen him do it 8 years in a row. And I think based on how the level of comfortability a lot of us felt, the level of peace a lot of us felt during that presidency, that alone would help him go to places that Kamala just didn't get the chance to get to, because unfortunately, and she was close. Let's be real about that. She was very close, but we did not see her in that role long enough to know what that could actually look like. And I fought that to the fact that Joe should have been in there on his first day, showing her the ropes, letting her know this is what, and when time come, when push come to shove, it's gonna be you. So let me show you how to do this. You need to be coming everywhere with me, so I can make sure that you are comfortable in these rooms and people are comfortable seeing you in these rooms, so that when it comes to election time, you can just walk up through here and we be done with it. But that's a whole nother conversation. I don't
Does
think that
anybody?
Obama is just a fair comparison. When you're making this argument, Obama is not a fair comparison. I just don't believe that
Well,
works out
I'm
well.
not trying to compare Obama to any other candidate. I guess what I'm getting at is, for me, it's less about the man and more what Barack Obama represented and how he made people feel and how he appealed. If you remember when Barack Obama first ran, I'm not talking about the re-election, but when he first ran, what Barack Obama won with was the sense of hope and future and possibility that he created. I mean, people were jazzed about the future of what America could bring and the possibilities, and he tapped into the best parts of people. And that is what won him. That's why people loved him so much. That was why, even more so than his policies, it was how Obama made people feel and how he made them feel seen, and the possibilities of America. That is what worked for him. What did Trump do? Trump came along and he played on the most cynical. He was the antithesis of that. America's not great. He played on grievance, not hope, but on something entirely the opposite of that. And he barely won. He skated to 2 presidential victories, barely winning in the popular vote, a few thousand votes here or there. And so what I'm saying is that it don't take much to beat Donald Trump. But if you want to get down in the mud and wrestle with him, with the cynicism and the hate and the anger and the bitterness, that is not a winning formula that's going to build the coalition that Barack Obama had that won him 2 straight elections. That is a bad formula for Democrats to try to emulate and follow. And if they do it, they will lose.
I'm not so sure about that, and I'm not even sure how we got to this part of the conversation. But what I will say, Kevin, is I think you're not slight. I think you're underestimating the power of running negative. There's a reason why running so many politicians, in you name it, they run negative, because it works. And when you can tap on people's ick, right? Reflex, man, that's extremely powerful. It might even be more powerful than the whole hope and nice guy stuff. And we've seen that because we got Trump back in office. And, for his people, he did run on hope. The hope that, he was going to do a lot of things that they wanted to see. And that's why they voted for him.
So look, I'll bring this up only because y'all bring it up every time we talk about this. Donald Trump beat 2 women. When he ran against a man, he lost. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. More Ohio.
It ain't because he had a winning message. If y'all wanna follow along the lines of what y'all have said numerous times, that America was not ready for a woman president, this is why I refuse to buy into this narrative that Donald Trump has a stranglehold on the hearts and minds of America, because he doesn't. The 2 times he won, he beat a woman. When he ran against a white man, he lost badly. So
I'm not sure you point.
Okay, so we're
not
racist
entirely
and
ready to jump
misogynist.
into this narrative that Donald Trump
Thank you,
politics.
Michelle. This country is both racist and misogynistic.
Yes, all those
That's what that was.
Right. Okay, let's move on. So this is interesting. I want to get your thoughts on this.
Thanks for the hope, Kevin.
Sorry.
Thanks for the hope.
So now state legislatures are pushing something I think is very interesting. Some may agree or disagree with this, but they want to push something called the success sequence. And they want to push this in public schools. They want public schools in Ohio to teach students that there are basic rules that will improve their lives before they graduate. And it goes like this. This is the success sequence. graduate from high school, get a job, don't have kids until you're married. Do you agree with that? Is that something that Ohio public schools should be teaching students, in your opinion?
I'll
I
say
don't think.
this: you shouldn't codify it into teaching, but I don't think this is anything more than what parents tell their kids. I mean, it's the same thing that my parents tried to teach me. Hey, don't have children before you're ready to take care of them. I mean, whether that's marriage or whether you're in a financial position to do that, go to school, get an education. I mean, I'm not saying that following that model is 100% guarantee of success, and that there aren't people who aren't successful who don't follow that model. But I think that's what a lot of, well, I can't say a lot. I can't quantify what that number is. But my guess is that many parents probably give that advice to their kids. That's just my thought. But I don't know that needs to be codified into Ohio law. I think some of these things are or be taught in schools. I mean, I think some of these things are within the purview of what you teach in your household, and I don't necessarily know that that's what schools need to be preaching to students.
Are these the same lawmakers who are defunding, birth control access at Planned Parenthood? I mean, are these the same? Is this the abstinence only and the just say no crap that we had to live through in the 80s? I mean, none of this is evidence based. It's an agenda, honestly. As much as these people like to talk about these agendas that they think teachers have bringing into our classrooms, this couldn't be more representative of a certain philosophy of life that has no place in public school classrooms. I mean, we are there to teach our kids critical thinking and to educate them, and this is just more culture war fodder. And it's never worked, and it won't work, and it's a distraction, and it's a waste of resources. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen is they're going to want to fund this stuff just like they fund religious education within the schoolhouse, and it's just going to take more resources away from our basic education that we are being mandated to teach, at the state level. So this, again, I'm sure it's the usual suspects behind. I don't even have to Google it to figure out probably who's behind this. It's just really insulting to suggest that these far right, probably white Christian nationalist types are trying to insert more crap into public school classrooms while at the same time defunding us and then also accusing us of DEI and all this other grooming and sick stuff that they like to talk about that we're doing. Well, I don't, I could go on, but I won't. But it's just it's an affront. It's insulting. It's never worked. It won't work. And it's honestly, insulting as a parent, that they think that we should be getting our morals and values through at a K through 12 system instead of at home.
I'm not
Well,
necessarily
that's
upset with the message. I just don't get why our school system feels like they're the ones who have to be the messenger. Like, it almost feels like we are. It almost feels like a sneaky, underhanded way to like do something that has been like the talk of every parent across the nation when it comes to curriculum. We're okay, we know, and we believe and we understand that parents have every right and all control about how we go about teaching our kids about their sexuality, how we go about teaching our kids about how they identify. You don't mess with the parents' right to do that, but you're sneakily trying to do something similar by trying to add in these lessons about, well, you should, this is how you should this is how you should, what are they calling it, success sequence. This is how you maintain success. This is how you achieve success. You graduate, and then you get a job, and then you don't have children until you get married. And it's like, okay, cool, that's kind of like, it sounds like such a piece of common sense that it's like, okay, I mean, I guess I don't mind you teaching my kid to wait until marriage to have kids. I don't mind you teaching my kid to get a job before they, start a family. I guess I don't mind that. So okay, cool. I'll let that be. But then that it becomes this thing where like you have opened this door for public schools to start teaching your kids and establishing certain morals for your kids and certain standards for how they live their life, that you don't even realize that that is exactly what you were just fighting against a couple of years ago, even currently, where you were trying to make it adamant that I'm the parent. I teach my kids what I want them to have morally. I teach my kids what I want them, how I want them to structure their life, and how I want them to do this and do that. You just teach them the arithmetic, as my grandma would call it. You teach them to read, write, and do math. I don't need you to do nothing else. I don't need you to be giving my kids, moral standards or any of this other extra stuff. Just teach them what it is they need to know to survive, and I will do the rest. This, because it sounds like common sense, this is the same thing that my grandmother taught me when I was growing up. It's the same thing that I teach my nieces and nephews. It's the same thing that my little cousins law. Like, this is stuff that is already being taught in our household. So my question is, which households do you think that's not being taught
Yes,
in? And
that's
Mhm.
why do
exactly.
you and why do you think that you're the one who should be stepping into that role to fill that role? Because what are you really trying to say? That's my issue with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no question of what they're really trying to say, and it is,
Precisely.
and you hit the point there. This is targeted at a specific type of individual or typical a specific demographic, because it gets back to the same conversation that we have over and over here again in Cincinnati, even about the crime issue with the youth. It's where are the parents? So this is designed to address the where are those parents, the parents who are not showing up, who are not teaching those kids these morals, these values. And so the public school system is designed to their what they're trying to do is use the public school system to hit that portion of kids who might not be getting that message at home. Because again, as I said, to me, this is common. This is kind of common sense parenting, probably what every parent kind of tries to tell their kids, because there is some truth to it. If you do have kids at a young age before you're ready, it invariably makes life a little bit more difficult than somebody who doesn't have to do that. You have less time, less resources, all of these things that you can kind of look at and say, it doesn't decrease it doesn't mean that you can't be successful, but it does mean you have to endure a few other obstacles and hurdles that a kid who doesn't have that doesn't have to deal with. I think we can all sort of look at that and say, yeah, there's probably just kind of some common sense anecdotal stuff in there that we could see that, yeah, waiting, until you have a job, you're in a better financial position, probably sets you up better. Okay, that's not, that's not overly controversial, I don't think. But again, should the school system, I think this is the school system trying to circumvent parenting in general, but really trying to fill the gap for what they see as a lack of parenting among some students in Ohio.
So
I
this
think
is going to be in
Well,
Indian
well,
Hill. And
Let's get Brother Dre in. Go ahead, Brother Dre.
well, personally, I don't have a problem with it. Because I see our public school system and our black kids are dropping out before they're sophomores, and that means more incarceration. I mean, you have the black race who are having more abortions than any other race. You got all these type of issues, and now if there's implementing some type of discipline within the school, some kind of structure, we both know there are single parents out there that cannot control the process of their home. Why? Because they're working all day. So by the time the kids come home, they're being raised by the other sibling. So I don't have a problem with the school maybe implementing some type of structure to assist these kids that are definitely not getting it at home. So I'm for the discipline aspect. I'm not going to go beat the wall, but there's certain things that are happening in the public school system that are needed because our kids are failing at an extremely high rate.
Yeah, I hate all of it. I think it's a terrible idea. I think it crosses the boundary between education and moral prescription. I think Michelle is right. There's a deeper agenda here that people are missing because there's some issues. Yeah, there might be some defects or some shortcomings in some of our households. That doesn't mean that public schools should be the one to try to tell people the way their life should be. And then my first question is define success. Like, what does that mean? When you say success, success in whose eyes, right? What's your version of success? There's a lot of people that had kids young and they went on to be successful. There's a lot of people that didn't graduate high school. They maybe went to trade school or got a GED. They went on to be successful. There's a lot of people that didn't get married. There's a lot of people who, for them, getting married made them less successful because it tripped them up. They was dealing with somebody that had all kind of issues, had all kind of demons, had all kind of childhood trauma, and it cost them time, money, and anguish for decades. So miss me with all of this. It's a terrible idea. I feels like there's an agenda afoot, and there's nothing I like about it. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. These are some of the same folks who say that liberals and progressives are trying to use the schools to indoctrinate our kids, but now you want to come out with a bill where you're just trying to indoctrinate children with the way you think they should live their lives. Everybody shouldn't get married. Everybody's not suitable to be married. Not everybody is marriage material. Getting married to the wrong person can be absolutely the worst decision of your whole life. A decision that you may never recover from. So why would I sit in front of somebody and tell them that that's the only way you can be married? I mean, be successful. It's through marriage. It's sexist. Because who are they talking to? They're talking to women. Get you a man.
That's right.
And live and be a stay-at-home mother. It's sexist. There's nothing about it that I think is a prescription for success. It's a prescription for a certain agenda. And I think it's very, very dangerous. It should not be in Ohio schools, in my humble opinion. I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there that might say otherwise.
It's just amazing to me how indoctrination is only an issue when it doesn't align with far right conservative ideology. Like it's only ever an issue when it's not that. Like they swear up and down that you're trying to indoctrinate their children to be gay or trans or whatever else whatever hot button issue that they don't agree with this week. Like, oh my God, they're using public schools and they're using the school system to indoctrinate my children. But as soon as they say something that you yourself wish to indoctrinate into your child, it's like, oh, that's cool. I'm cool with that. That's okay.
Right.
But not realizing that people don't like. I don't know if people understand this or not, but the way that you're raising your child is not the way that the next person is raising their child. And they have the right to raise their child the way that they see fit, the same way that you have the right to raise your child the way you see fit. And they don't deserve to have their child go to school and get the indoctrination that you prefer because you prefer it for your child. Leave that stuff out of the school system. Have them people teach your kids that arithmetic, that reading, that math, that writing, and get the hell home. Take your child home and teach them what you want them to know in your home. Indoctrinate your kids at home and leave the rest of people's kids alone.
Right.
Yeah. But this is consistent with that sort of make America great again narrative, right? Because this sort of subscribes to that old sort of, again, throwback mentality that people had that you know, is decades old and how people used to live. And what it is a failure to acknowledge is that culture is changing, people are changing. Younger people are making different decisions about when to have kids, whether to get married, all of these sorts of things. So the ideas of the 30s, 40s, and 50s and how people lived and how families were constructed back then are totally different than they are today. And this sort of indoctrination is just more of that trying to push us back to what in some people's mind was this bygone or golden era of what America
It was always a fantasy. It was always a fantasy.
But many people, Michelle, live in that fantasy, right? And many of those people are the fantastical people who support the MAGA movement, who think that, the 30s, 40s, and 50s is what's wrong with America today, that it's not that.
I think the litmus test is whatever they're trying to push into public schools, K through 12, in urban areas. First question is, have they put this in the wealthier public school districts? Are you seeing it in the Indian Hills, in the Wyomings, in the Sycamores? If they're not doing it there, why are they doing it in our district?
Because they don't need it. They don't feel like they need it.
No, wait a minute. Stop right there. They don't need it. Are you saying that teen pregnancy isn't happening in those places? Are you saying that?
I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm saying they believe
that's
they
the narrative, right? It's only urban kids and low income kids that need this moral guidance. The wealthier children in the whiter districts, they don't.
They don't have abortions either, Michelle.
It's insulting.
They don't have abortions in those school districts, and those kids never have abortions or do anything like that. It's hypocrisy. You know, it's 100% hypocrisy, but they'll never admit it.
Well, and it's
so is it hypocrisy that the prisons are more black and brown? Is that a hypocrisy? No,
it's not a hypocrisy.
But that's way more nuanced than what you're trying to make it seem.
It is the product of systemic racism and flaws in the system that create an environment and a pipeline for Black children to wind up in those circumstances.
Right. So how about instead of the conditions of infusing this required curriculum on, moral values, why don't you instead use those resources to wrap our kids in our urban school districts like you wrap them in Indian Hill and Wyoming with after school programming and sports and all the uniforms and the training they need to be successful and band camp and chess club and the rich curriculum and the school trips? And why don't you spend your money on that stuff and see if people are, if there's a difference after you fully support and wrap our kids that are in the poor districts in like the Indian Hills and the Wyomings, because that's what our kids need. They don't need this crap from some far right, group of people up in Columbia. And it's about the money. Follow the money. I'm sure they're asking for money to do this curriculum in our schools. And where's that money going to come from? From our school budgets, right? So it's all BS. And it's so frustrating to have to continue to fight. And it's racist. And it's insulting to the parents of our district to suggest that we need this instead of what we really need, which is more resources for our kids.
What it is it's moving the goalpost. That's true. That's truly what it is. It's a moving of the goalpost because it's as Michelle said, it's putting out that narrative that these children aren't already being taught these things. That's number one.
That's right.
But it's also it's like, isn't this not the entire functionality of a private school? Isn't this not exactly what this is for? You don't like the very catch-all educational system that exists within public schooling because it's not nuanced enough for you. It's not, it doesn't contain enough of the kind of structure that you would like for your child. And so that is the real function of what a private school is supposed to be. You are supposed to be able to choose a private school based off of the fact that this particular school's standards, their mission statement, and all of the policies they put in place, they align with what I would like for my child to adhere to. And some of that, depending on whether it's a religious school or not, some of that also dips into that morality thing. When it comes to a public school, at least from my understanding of when it was created, it was meant to teach a wide range of cultures and identities, the essentials. You are supposed to be giving this child the essentials to survive in this country on a very basic level. If you want them to have those extras and you cannot afford private school, this is what things like after school programming was for. Like Michelle stated, this is why you also if you want your child to have those very Christian leaning morality, like understandings and standards for morality, take your child to church. That's what that's there for. You don't get to skip church on Sunday and then send your kid to school on Monday and decide that they're gonna get those same lessons from school. That's not what that's for. That's not what that's for. If you want your child to walk away with Christian morals, take them to a Christian church on Sunday. Get up, stop being a bedroom Baptist, and take your kid to church.
Bedroom Baptist.
Tell you right now. No, I'm gonna tell you right now, because you're starting to see a lot of our public school athletes starting to go to these St. X's. They're going to the outer Indian Hill schools. They're going to the Molars. They're going to these schools. Why? Because there's no structure in the public school system. I mean, so you're seeing a lot of athletes now that are going to these other schools that they didn't have opportunities to go. Why? Because they're tired of the in-school violence. The structure is all over the place, and they got a failing system. So they're sitting there scrambling, saying we need to get some structure in these public school systems, because all our kids are now going to the other schools so they can function and study and do the things that are proper. And that's why you see even in Cincinnati, the elder schools are constantly successful. The St. X's, the Mo, you hear about the same schools all the time. Why? Because they're structured based.
No,
And then you
because
have
they're
even
taking our money through vouchers and giving it to the athletes. They have winning teams.
So let me just say this. I think money with the schools is part of it, but it's not the issue. It's you have to look, schools take a majority of the blame, but the reality is this: if you don't solve the societal issues that are around employment, housing, and the ability of parents to provide a stable household around their children, then you get what you get in the public schools. The problems that you have with, I mean, look, I don't have evidence on this. I don't have any studies of it, but I would suspect that there is a direct link to the home and the financial environments of those students who are the most troubled, who create the most situations in the public schools. It's hard for a kid who don't know where they're going to sleep or where they get their next meal at to be academically excellent, right? We know this. We know this for a fact. This is why they start serving breakfast and lunch and nutrition programs in schools so that they can solve it. Too much is being put on schools that you're not seeing. None of these same pressures exist in these private schools or in these suburban schools because they're coming from families that are operating with a different set of economic issues, that the kids aren't dealing with the same issues there. Sure, you can take a kid who's dealing with that and put them in that kind of environment, and that kid will excel. But you're not taking the majority of kids who are in those situations in public schools to be able to do it. So you gotta fix. Look, I can tell a kid all day, hey, go ahead and get a job. But what confidence do I have in that when I look around and my mom and dad can't get a job? They're unemployed, right? They can't make a livable wage. So how is that going to inspire me? Even if you've given me that lesson in school, my reality when I go home ain't that. So what you telling me is a bunch of this, that, or the other. So you know what? I'm gonna go out here and do what I got to do. And this is the problem, I think, that we find, too often, and we want to blame it on the schools and we want to talk about money in the schools. But the bigger issue is we got to have gainful employment for people. We got to have affordable housing where people can live, where they're not getting evicted and getting put out, every other month. I guarantee if you start taking care of those situations and you put parents in better situations where they can actually be parents to their kids, right? Mm-hmm. Solid parents, you will get better results in your schools. They will start looking like the private schools and some of these suburban schools. But we got to fix that part. That you can't separate that part from what you see in the schools, because the kids that show up in the schools are a product of the environments that they come from.
I mean, you can and you can't. So I agree with you. Like, I agree with everything you said. However, the issue on how our state is funding our schools is a problem.
Yes,
right?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
You're undercutting the funding of the school while
absolutely
putting on more of a burden on top of everything you just said, which I agree with, is a huge problem.
It's a problem.
And I don't understand how in my opinion, in my world, right, would not say if I ruled the world, every single kid that goes to a public school could go to an after school program that is fully funded and they should be able to fully explore, right, extracurricular activities, uniforms, and whatever. And studies show that when you have those programs in place, it reduces crime, right? Mm-hmm. The most critical time for young people to get in trouble is the 3 to 4 hours right after school. We saw that in Government Square. Mm-hmm. So if we expand, I would much rather use my tax dollars, whether it's claimed or unclaimed funds, to go to other people's children for after school and before school programs. And hey, guess what? That supports mom and dad. Because when I got a safe environment before and after school, I can get a second job. I can stay at work a little longer. I can do that extra project. That sets me up for that promotion, right? But when you don't, it's a domino effect that impacts the entire community, and it matters. And I just fear that there's an agenda to basically undercut our schools, public schools, and then sit back and say, see, I told you they don't work. And I think it's completely wrong and unfair to every man, woman, and child, Whether your kid goes to a public school, you are impacted because the other kids go to public schools, right? It's a detriment to every man, woman, and child in Ohio, in my opinion.
Well, guys, I got to clock off here. It's been great being on the hot mic. I got something to do at 3. Thanks
thank you
for
so
the
much.
invite, Nathan. Always take it easy, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
see you,
We're
Michelle.
wrapping up actually. Yeah,
Alrighty, cool.
that's the bell right there. Just want to
Okay.
remind people next week is Halloween. Next Friday we're doing something very special. What is it? Trick or Truth. Very special edition of Hot Mic Podcast. Join us. We're gonna have some fun with you. May have some surprises for you. So check us out. And to the panel, let everybody know what you got going on, Brother Dre, Raven. What's going on? I know, Brother Dre, you're doing the podcast. When and where, and how can people tap in?
Definitely. It's definitely every Monday and Thursday. Monday, of course, make it make sense. Monday and Thursdays, Curse Breakers 300 Thursday. And now they've just released on the Andre the Beast Network, the Black Shield. It was a podcast I was doing with some brothers out from Atlanta and South Carolina. So it's being released now this month, and getting a lot of positive reviews on that one. So just come on out, and we're gonna be in touch.
Absolutely. And Raven, what's going on? Let everybody know.
I'm just selling insurance. That's it.
Not just how can they contact you? Let them know.
You can. Matter of fact, I keep saying it, but I'll post my I'll reshare the post with my information on it. But yeah, life insurance. I help with debt-free life, which is basically if you got some debt that you need to help taken care of, I can help you there. So keep that in mind. But like mortgage protection for new homeowners and stuff like that, just all of your life insurance product needs, I can help you out. And so yeah, I'll make sure to repost that post. Just go to my page and it'll be on there. But yeah, that's all I'm doing right now at the moment. Just trying to figure out my life and set up my business. That's it.
All right, Kevin. Any prediction for the game on Sunday?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm hoping this should be a game that the Bengals should win handily. That's why I'm nervous. I was joking with Brother Dre before we came on about this being a trap game this week. Like everything sets up for the Bengals to win. Sauce Gardner, I don't know if he's gonna play. He was still in concussion protocol earlier. They ain't decided on which quarterback they're gonna start. So I was like, man, we 6.5 point favorites, I think, for this game. So I feel pretty good about us winning, but I'm nervous. I got to admit.
All right. Should be fun. Well, to the audience, thank you so much for being here. We're planning to be back on Tuesday at 1:15 p.m. Have a great rest of your weekend. Hey, Raven, can you stay online? Because I've got a new intro, and if I could just get like a minute of your time, I can add you to it.
Mhm.
Okay? All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here, and we'll check back with you next week. Have a great week.